Insulin works. You have a high carb diet, lots of glucose in the bloodstream, lots of sugar in your body, which is an increased insulin level, which signals to the liver and the muscles to store the glucose as glycogen. Once the liver and the muscles are filled to the brim, the excess glucose is turned into fats, triglycerides, and sent out into the blood to be able to be stored into fat cells around the body. So this balancing of insulin and reining that high carb diet in is absolutely at the core of what we are doing as health coaches. Do you want to say something?
I know you, Karen.
Ideally, we want to be insulin sensitive. We want to be responsive to our insulin. But when we are hammering our bodies with repeated glucose and our insulin is constantly having to be produced, we step into something called insulin resistance. And it is when the cells in our muscles, our fat, our liver don't respond anymore. They're like, it's like the body that cried wolf. It's like, you've been shouting at me that there's danger, danger, danger. I'm just going to start ignoring you. Mm. And the body cannot use the insulin, so blood sugar levels increase, and this leads to weight gain. Nice little picture there.
And a load of inflammation. Because now the body is actually in this situation, so producing more cortisol. So one thing we didn't talk about when we were talking about the blood sugar roller coaster is every single time cortisol goes into the body, cortisol should be a once in, an occasional thing. But cortisol now, we are in a cortisol stew because, we wake up with an alarm clock and we went to bed late. So we wake up and there's all this cortisol and the kids are screaming and there's coffee and then that email arrives. And so we're just stressed all the time. So we're constantly producing cortisol. It's really important to note, we can become diabetic through stress alone. You could have a perfect diet. And yet, if you're really highly stressed, you can still end up insulin resistant and diabetic. So cortisol is really important. And the more that we're producing cortisol, the more our body goes into an inflammatory response. And the more we have the inflammatory response, the more we're going to be in an insulin response. And so this is like, we end up in this horrendous spiral.
More weight.
And actually, one of the main causes of cortisol is not just because our blood sugars are dropping, not just because we're stressed, it's because we're eating foods we're intolerant to, or we're eating processed foods. And so go back to that Weight Watchers list, go back to that Slimming World list. It's full of inflammatory foods. So we're just getting cortisol spiking all through the day.